In 2024, Iran faces one of the most severe combinations of external threats in modern history. Direct Israeli airstrikes on its military infrastructure, unrelenting economic sanctions from the West, cyber attacks, and the constant threat of regional conflict. Yet Iran endures. But this is nothing new. From ancient times to today, Iran remains unbroken, weathering pressures that would crumble many nations. Iran is fortified not only by its modern defenses, but by layers of historical, cultural, and ideological resilience. It's a nation that, despite continuous external pressure, refuses to yield or conform. But to fully understand why Iran resists so effectively, we must delve into the nation's deep historical roots, natural fortifications, and all the influences that cemented Iran's resilience for centuries. What makes Iran undefeatable? Let's find out. Iran is not merely a country formed by recent borders. It is the heart of an ancient empire, one that has survived and thrived for millennia. This region has been home to the Persian Empire, an entity that ruled with authority and cultural sophistication from roughly 550 BCE, under the rule of Cyrus the Great, one of history's most revered leaders. Unlike empires that rose and fell in quick succession, Persia maintained power, influence, and stability over an enormous territory for hundreds of years, setting standards for governance, justice, and human rights. The resilience embedded in Iran's DNA began with Cyrus's conquest, which stretched the empire across 3 continents, introducing concepts of tolerance and centralized administration. Cyrus's cylinder, often dubbed the First Charter of Human Rights, exemplified a revolutionary mindset for the time. Rather than subjugating conquered peoples, he aimed to incorporate them peacefully. This legacy of respect for diversity is a historical root of Iran's modern cohesion. While other empires fragmented under external pressures, Persia's ability to maintain a vast, multicultural society laid the groundwork for an identity that could endure foreign invasion, rebellion, and crisis. Iran's survival through eras of Mongol invasions, Arab conquests, and Ottoman challenges illustrates its resilience. Unlike many regions that lost their cultural identity under foreign rule, Iran assimilated aspects of each conqueror, blending them into Persian identity without ever allowing outsiders to fully control or assimilate its culture. This cultural invincibility translates directly into modern Iranian psychology. Every Iranian today carries the awareness that their ancestors faced the greatest empires and outlasted them all. To them, this isn't merely pride. It's a kind of collective historical proof that Iran cannot be conquered. In modern terms, think of Iran's history as a form of soft armor. When sanctions, propaganda, and military threats pile on, this national consciousness reminds Iranians that they've been here before and survived. They draw strength from this history, embracing an against-all-odds identity. This is a culture built to withstand external pressure, not with brute force alone, but with an unbreakable spirit. Iran's historical legacy is the bedrock of its resilience, but it is far from the only factor. The very geography of Iran serves as a fortress, a defense as old as the country itself and as strategic as its modern military. But what does geography have to do with making Iran strong? Iran's geography is not merely a collection of natural features. It's a shield, a strategic advantage that has protected it against invasions for centuries. Positioned at the convergence of the Middle East, Central Asia, and South Asia, Iran is surrounded by natural barriers that provide distinct defensive advantages. The Zagros Mountains run through western Iran like a spine, forming a natural fortress between Iran and its neighbors, particularly Iraq. The Alborz Mountains guard the northern front along the Caspian Sea, shielding it from potential threats from the north. These ranges aren't just rugged. They are among the most challenging terrains in the region, forcing any invading force into narrow, winding paths where Iranian forces have historically held the advantage. These mountain ranges alone have been instrumental in Iran's defense against numerous invasions. For instance, during the 1980s Iran-Iraq War, the Zagros Mountains proved essential in thwarting Saddam Hussein's attempts to invade. Iraqi forces, despite their military strength and chemical weapons, found themselves ensnared in mountainous choke points where Iran's defenders held the high ground. Then there are Iran's deserts, the Dasht-e-Kavir and Dasht-e-Lut, that occupies central and eastern Iran. These regions are vast, arid, and inhospitable, with temperatures reaching extremes that make it nearly impossible for large armies to sustain themselves for long. Many of Iran's ancient cities and critical infrastructure are situated beyond these deserts, ensuring that any advancing army would have to cross some of the harshest environments on Earth. Modern technology, you might think, should lessen the importance of geography. Yet, even with satellites and drones, the geographical reality remains a logistical nightmare. Moving troops and equipment through mountainous regions is slow and costly, while air campaigns are limited by the mountainous terrain, which provides countless hiding spots for Iran's air defenses. The desert also provides strategic advantages. As ground forces attempt to maneuver through it, they become easy targets, visible from miles away and vulnerable to Iranian air and ground attacks. Iran's military has also strategically positioned itself to maximize these natural defenses. Knowing their homeland intimately, Iranian forces train in these mountains and deserts, turning these landscapes into military assets. They've adapted their equipment, using smaller, agile units that can exploit the rugged terrain in ways conventional armies cannot. Iran's geography isn't merely a backdrop, it's an active participant in its defense strategy, an invisible army that stands ready to turn invading forces into sitting targets. Beyond physical defenses, Iran's cultural identity binds its people in ways that make internal division almost impossible, creating an additional, invisible layer of resilience against foreign threats. Iran's resilience is as much cultural as it is geographical or military. At the heart of Iranian identity is a sense of cultural pride that dates back to the dawn of civilization itself. Unlike countries with relatively recent national identities, Iran's sense of self is deep, enduring, and historically layered. Persian culture, language, art, and religion are not just aspects of life in Iran. They are the essence of life itself. This cultural fabric creates a level of societal cohesion that is nearly unbreakable, making Iran uniquely resistant to the kinds of division that adversaries have historically exploited in other nations. The works of poets like Hafez, Rumi, and Ferdowsi are more than literature in Iran. They are spiritual and philosophical pillars that shape Iranian consciousness. The Shahnameh Book of Kings, for example, is not simply an epic poem, but a cultural and moral guide that has instilled values of heroism, loyalty, and resistance in Iranian hearts for generations. When foreign powers attempt to influence Iranian society, they are met with a cultural unity that has been fortified over millennia. Unlike younger nations that struggle with identity, Iran knows exactly who it is, and that knowledge is its strength. This cultural unity also manifests in times of crisis. While economic hardship might destabilize other societies, in Iran, it often has the opposite effect. Under sanctions, for example, Iranians have learned to come together, innovate, and find ways to survive. This unity acts like a form of social immunity, whereby challenges only reinforce the collective will of the people. When sanctions are imposed or military threats loom, Iranians don't turn on each other. They close ranks, embracing the idea that their unity is their greatest asset. Iran's adversaries often fail to understand the depth of this cultural cohesion, mistaking a politically diverse society for a fractured one. But political disagreements don't undermine Iranian unity. They are part of a complex society that holds cultural identity above political factionalism. Attempts to sow discord are thwarted by a collective understanding of Iran's unique place in history and a shared commitment to preserving it. Foreign powers underestimate this at their own risk, failing to see that Iran's unity is a formidable defense in its own right. Iran's cultural strength forms an unbreakable social bond, but its influence stretches beyond its borders through strategic alliances that act as extensions of its power. But how does Iran's network of alliances amplify its influence across the Middle East? Iran's reach doesn't end at its borders. Through years of meticulous planning, it has established alliances and proxies that have fundamentally reshaped the balance of power in the Middle East. While some see these groups as separate entities, they are part of a carefully coordinated network that allows Iran to project its influence far beyond its territory, creating what some call the axis of resistance. In Lebanon, Hezbollah has grown from a small militia into a highly organized, well-armed force with significant political power. Iran's support has turned Hezbollah into a group that can hold its own against the Israeli military, one of the most advanced in the world. This alliance isn't just strategic, it's ideological. Hezbollah shares Iran's commitment to resisting Western influence, and this shared ideology makes the alliance both strong and enduring. Through Hezbollah, Iran has a direct foothold in Lebanon and a powerful deterrent against Israeli and Western actions in the region. In Yemen, Iran's support of the Houthi rebels has turned a civil conflict into a strategic pressure point. The Houthis' control over parts of Yemen places them near the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, a critical choke point for global oil shipments. This proximity allows Iran to indirectly threaten one of the world's most important shipping lanes, a powerful bargaining chip in any geopolitical conflict. Through the Houthis, Iran gains leverage over Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and their Western allies. The US and its allies know that any strike on Iran could lead to retaliatory actions from Hezbollah in Lebanon, Shiite militias in Iraq, and Houthi forces in Yemen. This network effectively multiplies Iran's military presence, making it nearly impossible to isolate Iran in a conflict. This is a deterrent strategy that discourages direct attacks, as aggressors understand that Iran's reach is far greater than it appears on a map. While some view this network as an attempt to destabilize the region, Iran sees it as a necessary defense against encroaching foreign powers. Western nations often label Iran's alliances as proxy warfare, yet they overlook the strategic necessity behind them. For Iran, these alliances are a matter of survival in a region where it is surrounded by hostile forces. This network is not simply a tool for power projection. It's a mechanism for protecting Iran's sovereignty. Through these alliances, Iran has created an interconnected defense system that ensures its security, regardless of the power of its opponents. While Iran's alliances are essential for its security, its military strategy extends deeper, into the realm of ideological commitment and a revolutionary military ethos that strengthens its resolve. So, what role does ideology play in shaping Iran's military resilience? Iran's military isn't just a conventional force. It's deeply rooted in ideology, particularly through the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps (IRGC). Formed in 1979 after the Iranian Revolution, the IRGC was tasked with a mission that went beyond defending borders. It was charged with protecting the ideals of the revolution itself. To the IRGC, military strength isn't solely about equipment and numbers. It's about an unwavering commitment to a cause that transcends national borders and serves as a beacon of resistance. The IRGC's identity is shaped by the concept of martyrdom and self-sacrifice. From a young age, Iranians are taught stories of sacrifice and resistance, inspired by figures like Imam Hussein, who is revered for his defiance in the face of overwhelming odds. This ethos infuses the IRGC, where soldiers see themselves as defenders of Iran's sovereignty and dignity, ready to give their lives for the revolution. For them, this is not merely a job, it's a sacred duty, and this deep-seated belief fuels their resolve. This ideological drive also means that the IRGC operates under different principles than many other modern militaries. For the IRGC, victory isn't defined by conventional metrics. It's defined by the ability to resist and endure. Even when outmatched, they fight with a tenacity that stems from a belief in the righteousness of their mission. This mindset was visible during the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s, when Iran's forces fought a much larger, better-equipped Iraqi army to a standstill. The war became a defining moment for the IRGC, which emerged as a symbol of Iranian resilience and commitment. Furthermore, the IRGC isn't just a military entity. It has a powerful influence within Iranian society. It controls significant economic assets, including businesses and industries that provide financial independence from foreign influence. This economic autonomy allows the IRGC to function with fewer restrictions and enables it to fund its initiatives without relying solely on the government. This independence has turned the IRGC into a state within a state, a powerful force that upholds Iran's revolutionary values across military, political, and economic arenas. Iran's soldiers fight for more than land. They fight for a cause they see as divine. So, Iran's resilience isn't due to any single factor. Instead, it's the result of a carefully cultivated combination of history, geography, culture, alliances, and ideology that together create an unbreakable defense. Now you know that Iran's resilience is not accidental. It is the result of centuries of cultivated strength. From its ancient history and geographical advantages to its cultural unity, strategic alliances, and ideologically driven military, Iran has developed a layered defense that cannot be easily penetrated. Iran in 2024 is more than a nation in the Middle East. It's a testament to the enduring power of a civilization that has survived against all odds. With each layer of resilience, Iran stands as a symbol of resistance in an era of constant pressure, embodying the idea that some forces in the world cannot be conquered. Do you think any force can defeat Iran? Can the US do it? Let us know in the comments section. Do you think Iran got involved in this war while it was insecure? Or does it completely trust its defense system? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: African politics, the economy, and increasing power. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.